Hey guys, welcome back. We've got a tap and go first for you this week. So Matt and I are back together for the first time since lockdown, recording from our tap and go studio. Today we're joined by a player who's played for a whole host of top level clubs and is currently at Bath. He also has represented his country at 2 Rugby World Cups, including this year in Japan. He's known as the Cornish FIJIAN, or more commonly as Josh Matavesi. Josh, thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having the show.
Yeah, no worries. So how have you found quarantine? How have you managed to pass for 3.5 months now?
I've got 2 kids, so I've been pretty busy.
Full-time job.
Yeah, homeschooling and sorting those guys out. But no, it's been good. I've been lucky. I've been in Cornwall, so having the beach next to me is it's pretty handy, on the hot days. So just jump down for a quick surf. It's quite easy.
For sure. So I guess the Premiership comes back on the 15th of August against London Irish. What are you doing to sort of prepare for it and sort of, I guess, get your body back in peak condition?
Yeah, we're back in stage 2 now, so it's pretty full on. So yeah, yesterday was a bit of contact stuff, just like you said, prepping the body. Feels a bit weird, tackling someone again and getting tackled. But now it's good. It's more mental, I think, more than anything, rather than physical. It's just preparing your mind that you're going to get back into it. So I can't wait. I'm pretty eager to get going.
So now more focusing about you. So obviously you were born in England, grew up in Cornwall. So you went through the proper grassroots level to get into professional rugby. How did you find that as someone who traditionally, I think, are both your parents Fijian? So
nah, my mum's Cornish.
Okay. Sorry,
yeah.
How do you sort of get into professional rugby?
Wow, that's a good question. To start off, my local club, Camborne, played there for pretty much my whole childhood. Had a little spell at a local team called Redruth. And then at the age of around about 14, 15, I got spotted by Robin Cowlin and Ricky Pelle. They're to do with the Exeter Chiefs. So from then I just went to Truro College after year 11. And they were like linked then to the Chiefs, but the Chiefs then were in the Championship. So after I finished college, we had a pretty successful college team. We won that the old Daily Mail thing at Twickenham, and a few of us got in contract for the Chiefs. So pretty lucky, but it's all I've ever wanted to do. So it's pretty driven, and ended up playing for the Chiefs that year when we got promoted, and then stayed for most of the season after that in the Premiership. So it was awesome. It went so quick, but then I was so young as well.
Was there anything sort of that you, looking back now, that as a young player you achieved a lot? So I think you're in England under 20s, got the Chiefs promoted. Was there anything that you could sort of think back and perhaps think differently in terms of mentality or sort of approach?
Probably would have taken it a bit more serious at college, and even like my first year at Chiefs, would have probably taken it a bit more seriously, as in like nutrition and my weights. Never really been big into weights. I'm still not, but just with the way that the game's going or has gone, definitely I feel like I've never really hit my potential.
So Matt touched on it there, but you, I think, represented England under 20s. Is that right? So
it was like a camp thing. It was I was during the Six Nations. I just got a call on a Tuesday night, I think, and then I got told I'm going to Portugal for a camp, and it was just like, oh, it's like way out the.
Was there a consideration of pursuing to play for England rather than playing for Fiji, as you obviously have ended up?
Yeah, if I'm honest, I always wanted to play for England. As a kid growing up, always wanted to play for England. But things happen and things change. And to be fair, Fiji were pretty quick on it. I've only played about, I think it was like 5 games for the Chiefs in the Championship, and it was October, and they said, "Oh, do you want to come and play for Fiji in the November series?" Looking back, I probably went into it way too quick. I could have just held out a little bit more, and there's always that question in my head of could I have played for England? But I've been lucky with the career I've had. With the way it's gone. So I don't hold any regrets.
Mm-hmm. So also, I guess when you you played both 10 centres and 15, is there sort of, in terms of sort of getting a flow and sort of a focusing in one position, was that ever sort of difficult for you, or did you find it natural to play a variety of positions?
Growing up, I thought it just came natural. For me, I just want to play rugby, so I really don't care where I played. But then as you get older and the games are more serious and there's more on the line, I really think it's beneficial that you kind of nail down one position. I mean, it's just more mentally. As a 12, I like to be quite aggressive and physical. But if you play 10, you've got to real change that mindset up. So you find yourself not doing what you do at 12. And then as well, you obviously at 12, you've got a lot, your depth, your timings all off 10. So it all just role reversal. You've got to try and change it again. So it definitely benefited me playing loads of different positions, because you get a real appreciation of the different jobs you've got to do. And then you need a different type of skill set for each of those jobs. But I think the more serious you get into it, I think it's really important that you try to nail down at least one position specifically, and just try and master it if you can.
So now are you focusing on, so you play 12 for Bath, is that your...
Yeah, I love playing 12. I mean, for me, a lot of people looking out, they just think I'm a battering ram, which I can do that as part of my game, but I really like distributing. I like putting people through holes, and I like offloading and kicking. So I look like I should do one thing, but I can do an array of things which I like doing.
So in your career, you obviously started with Exeter, then you went to Racing, Ospreys, and then at Bath, and there's a couple of other clubs in there as well. Did you find that moving around? Moving around quite a lot in your career, did that stop you from getting into a proper rhythm, or did you enjoy going to different clubs, seeing different routines? And
yeah, I mean, the best thing about all those clubs is I never left any club on bad terms. That was the best thing. I never left because of my behaviour. I never left because there's a dispute. I left because I just thought that the club that I was going to next was a better thing in my career. So even with Rob Baxter, and then I moved from Racing with Pierre Broncon. Pierre, I forgot his name now, but I've always left on good terms. But I just love travelling. I think, I've always wanted to be growing up, kind of like a one club man. I thought, Chiefs, I would have been there my whole career. But, circumstances change. And to be honest with you, Rob Baxter was awesome. He was really honest with me and just said, just don't think we're getting anywhere with this. Racing's probably a better call for you. So going to France was cool, but probably different. I had a way different mentality when I was then 19. For me, if I went back to France, I would have completely changed my mentality, because I went to France on that retirement mentality, and it's really bad, I know. But you hear all the stories about people going to France and just retiring. Yeah. That's what I thought, and that's kind of like the picture that was set to me. So I just went there with a completely wrong attitude. But then, I kind of reversed what people's thoughts were on me, and then ended up playing quite a lot for Racing. And things changed. My wife got pregnant, so I wanted to go back to England to be closer to family.
Mm. Was there a big difference in terms of setup and routine between all the clubs? Or was it quite similar?
Nah. So I went from when I went from Exeter to Racing, that was a massive just culture change. In terms of obviously, I was just a Cornish boy going to the Chiefs. So for me, it was all I knew really. And then to be then in a completely different country with a different language, but then the caliber of players there. So you had like Francois Steyn, Juan Martin Hernandez, Chabal, Lionel Nally. So I'm kind of like, a bit of starstruck. Kind of, what am I doing here, sort of thing. But I learned so many lessons in that. I think me going out there by myself was probably the best thing, because it just meant I had to get on with it. And then moved to Worcester after that, and then Richard Hill ran a pretty tight ship. And then he left, and then Dean Ryan came in, and that was even stricter. But he's good. He's a good bloke. I like Dean. And then I went to Ospreys, and Ospreys was kind of similar to Racing, as in like the caliber of players there. Pretty much had the whole Welsh team in the squad. So the standards there were great, and it was very. I really enjoyed Ospreys. I think it brought the best out of me, that the environment with people driving themselves. And then Newcastle was just great. I had such a good time there. Family loved it there. And Dean Richards, I can't speak highly enough of him. He's probably the best DOR I've ever had. Loves old school. You've always got to catch a bus back from an away game. So yeah, always having a few beers on the bus. Just I really got on well with him. And then Bath now is good. It's a club that I was at when I was about 13, 14 when my uncle ran the academy. So there's a few faces there still. So it's good, and I'm comfortable at Bath. As in, like, not comfortable as in playing, but I'm comfortable as in the environment. I can be myself, which is the main thing.
So you touched on the fact that you have 2 kids. Did you find it quite tough moving around so often? So that with the whole family, have to move the family up to Newcastle and then say back down to Bath? Yeah,
so my oldest is born in Worcester, so I was at the Warriors when my oldest was born, and my youngest is in Swansea. So when after the Newcastle thing, when Dean said that, I'm not going to be re-signing me because there's a few things going on behind the scenes, nothing to do with the playing side, but I think it was financially. He said, "Look, I think it's best if you he was really, really honest with me, which is good. He just said, I think it's best if you start looking now, to help your families, because I know obviously they're in school and stuff." So Bath for me was a great move because it means now my wife and kids, they're in Newquay in Cornwall, where we live, and I'm just literally 2 hours up the road. So the kids are settled in school. It was really tough actually moving from Newcastle out because, like you said, they got their group of friends there, and it's quite tough to. I would hate to be the new kid at school, and luckily now for my kids, they're not going to have that because they'll be settled now.
So, talking more about your international career, we were wondering whether there was a process in the way that you found out about your first cap. So, did you have to go? Was there an initiation or a special ceremony that you had to undergo?
Nah, lucky, because the Fijian boys are quite religious, so there's not really a lot of drinking going on. So there's no initiations, which was good, to be fair. But they are really, unity and team is a massive thing. Family is a massive thing. So even before every game, there's always a jersey presentation the night before a game, and a lot of singing, a few hymns, Bible verses. So no, it's quite special. We had a few. I think there's, who did we play? We played played a country before, and we invited a few of them over to come and look at the jersey presentation. And they were just like, "Whoa! I wish we did that before every game." Because I think a lot of teams just do it before a special occasion. If someone's got a 50th, a debut, so on. So we do it Fiji do it every single international game, which is quite special.
Really shows how much you value rugby as a nation.
Yeah, is the reason I like playing for Fiji. I like playing for Fiji is just because of the values the boys hold. No one's there for a financial gain because there's no money. So you're there for the right reasons, which is, at the end of the day, what rugby's all about.
Would you say that's the most special thing about playing for Fiji? So the camaraderie and sort of the spirit. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, definitely the camaraderie, and then definitely just how crazy the country gets.
Yeah.
It's such a tough. It's not really. I don't know if there's a word to describe it. It's just the country's just glued to that test week.
So obviously you've been to 2 World Cups. Very lucky you came to England 4 years ago and Japan in the autumn. Talking about England first, did you find, I think you played England in their first game, didn't you? So how did you go about nulling obviously a very excited crowd who at the time were quite excited about England's chances?
Yeah, I mean, it was the first thing was that we were lucky enough that we had a lot of players playing in England in that tournament. So to be fair, a lot of players already knew what kind to expect, but then obviously a World Cup's a different gravy. It's another step up. So we were the opening ceremony as well. So we didn't have the warm-up zone. We only had the dead ball to warm up in. because obviously they were doing the opening ceremony. So, we could hardly do anything in the warm up, because obviously they were setting and getting ready for when we go back in the change rooms and then do the ceremony. So that was really weird. And then obviously you come out and it's just the atmosphere is a cauldron. But England opening game, we always knew that they were going to come out firing, and to be fair, they did.
And then obviously you had Uruguay in your group, who was the game that you won. Did you go about that as like the biggest game of your tournament? Because realistically for Fiji, that was the one which you knew that you probably should win.
Yeah, well, we went because we were opening game. We thought we would catch England out because I think we played the week before against Canada, and I don't think England had played for like 2 or 3 weeks. So we thought we would catch them. But then as well, like, you don't go to World Cup trying to pick your games to win. So like we had literally all the belief of going to every single game, England, Australia, Wales, and then Uruguay. We truly believed we were going to win everyone, because I think that's the mentality you got to have going into a World Cup.
Yeah, definitely difficult, especially in that pool of death from 2015. So I guess moving on to the 2019 World Cup. So it was in Japan, a total different setting. What was it like, I guess, playing in Japan?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the coolest cities that our countries have ever been to. Just in terms of the cleanliness of the place, how respectful the people are and polite the people are. They couldn't do enough for you. You don't have to even know them, and they'll try and help you. And then the weather as well. Weather was good. It was humid. It was very much like Fiji. So a lot of the boys were at home with that, and we really thought that we could use that against other teams that we were playing against. And then obviously the food in Japan is top notch. Couldn't get enough of it.
And obviously in 2019 you were pulled against Uruguay again, but this time Uruguay actually got the better of you. I think it was one of the best games of the World Cup. It was so close but so thrilling. Is that because obviously not for you, but was that because you think Uruguay's rugby program's got so much better, or was it just an off day for Fiji? Or
I'm not going to hold any excuses. They played better. They wanted it more than us. I feel like we put all of our eggs into one basket with Australia. We must have trained 8-9 weeks before that just solely on Australia. All the plays, all of our energy into that game, and it was tough. Sports tough. The November before, Fiji beat Uruguay like 80-0,
yeah.
And then we had Uruguay 4 days or 3 days after Australia. So mentally as well, it's tough. You think it's going to be the same as November, but to be fair to Uruguay, you could just see that they were way more hungrier than us. And we thought that we were just going to steamroll them like they did in November. But credit where credit's due, man. Like, they come out and they played their socks off. We just thought we were going to kind of coast it.
And I guess you also beat Georgia in the same sort of group. What was that like? Sort of, once you beat Georgia, did you feel there was some momentum gaining?
Yeah, we had a massive week that week. After losing to Uruguay, we had a massive sit down, and we were just saying Georgia are going to have it no matter what. And we actually beat Georgia at their own game, scrummaging. We scrummed them off the park, which is unheard of for Fiji. So we really want to give the rugby world a wake up call that that we're at the World Cup. So as bad as Uruguay was, to see the resilience of the boys against Georgia, yeah, we were fired up. And then it was kind of that Wales game. We went in there with total belief that we were going to roll them over.
And obviously, you also got to play your brother Sam at the World Cup, which is one thing which any siblings would dream of doing. You achieved it. What was that like?
No, it was good. I haven't played. The last time I played with them was back in Cornwall, and yeah, we're a really competitive bunch of brothers. There's another one as well, Joel, who plays at Newcastle. As kids growing up, it was rugby, football, tennis, cricket, boxing. We were doing it against each other as well. So to have him there was good, because just spending time with your brother is always good, isn't it? Your family. So to be able to share a room with him as well, just keeping in touch with my nephews and nieces, and then same for my kids as well, was good. And no, it was special. Cherished it. But yeah, we got heavy into FIFA. So we were trying to smash each other up.
Cool. So I guess we want to move on and talk about sort of like rugby in Fiji and how it's sort of the development and the growth. Where do you think the Fiji rugby could go in the future? Sort of like, what's its potential?
Sky's the limit with Fiji. That's what I think. Just needs the right people running it. And to be fair, the new appointments of Simon Rawalui and Vern Cotton, if they don't succeed under those two, I don't really know what's going to happen after that, because I worked with Simon at Racing, and his credentials speak for themselves. He's one of the nicest blokes I've ever worked with, and he only wants the best for Fiji rugby. And Vern, I've heard the stories of Vern when he was in Scotland, and he expects excellence. So, hopefully those two can help drive the standards, and then especially in not so much the playing side, it's more the off field, that side of the game. Hopefully, those two can pick up the back office and drive Fiji to where it belongs, because that's all we want as players, is to be successful.
You've spoken about the lack of support from World Rugby with Fiji, and the fact that I think you had to pay for your own plane ticket to Japan, didn't you? And we're still waiting to pay back for that. Do you want to speak a little bit more about that?
It's tough. Look, I'm no financial expert, but when you play with boys who play for England and so on, and you obviously see how much they get per game, and you see how well they get looked after. All we kind of want is an equal playing field. That's kind of all we're asking for. It's not even the money side of it. We just want to get treated fairly. That's all. But I just think education's a massive thing. I just think financially speaking, I think people who are dealing with that sort of side in Fiji need to be financially educated properly, because at the end of the day, it is a business. I know that, but you can't have international players going to a World Cup paying for their own things.
Do you think Fiji 15 has the potential to get up to the standard of Fiji 7s, who are obviously fighting every year at the top of the World Series?
It's tough because sevens is the number one sport. So it's like football over here. Sevens over there is the main. That's all everyone cares about, is sevens. So it's a real tough mold to break. But we're trying to. I think what the Fiji are trying to do is just trying to make that transition from sevens to 15s a lot easier. Which then, if you get the big names from sevens trying to play 15s, I think that will help bring the crowd over. But to be fair, the crowd's nuts in Fiji, so it is unbelievable to play in Fiji, because there's only so many tickets available, but everyone seems to be there. The whole country seems to be at the stadium, and everyone seems to be a rugby expert, which is good, because it just shows they care.
And I guess on that note of like international fixtures, where do you sort of see Fiji like aligning themselves? Because there was talk of joining sort of the Rugby Championship, and then there's now like Six Nations and so on. Where do you think is the best place?
Yeah, good question. I feel like the Fiji have earned their right to get more tier one teams to play against.
Yep.
You look at the team sheet that Fiji have the potential of putting out, and it's star-studded, is ridiculous. But we need to produce the goods on the field as well. We need to get the right results. We can't be getting pumped against tier ones or tier twos and then demanding to be playing against tier ones all the time. Yep. But then it shows, Argentina, they have a consistent amount of games against tier one nations, and you see how they just gone straight up. So in Fiji, luckily they've started that Drua team, which is like a reserve team. They play in Australia, and it just means the locals now. Back in the day, the overseas guys and then the local guys were miles apart, because obviously the competition in Fiji is not up to standard of the Premiership or top 14. So luckily now they're playing in Australia, which just means now the locals are that much more upskilled, and the jump between that and international is not as much as it used to be, which is great.
So I think we'll finish up quite soon, but I've got a couple more questions. So we're wondering what the toughest game you played in, or like the toughest opposition or player that you've come up against.
Toughest player is probably Manu or Charles Pietau. The reason I hate playing Manu is just I don't think you realise how big he is when you play against him. Like, he is huge. Like, not as in like height, but just like the density of the bloke.
Mm.
So, like, he is like hitting a fridge freezer.
Have you played him on the international stage or just at club level?
No, I've played him international as well, but I'm always at 10 when I play for Fiji. So, you know, it's nice when you got like him and Billy Vunipola running at each channel, isn't it? But then Charles Piuttel's another one. I hate facing that bloke. He can step you, run over you, run around you. It's just, you're just trying to close your eyes and hope you get near him.
So I guess for our last question, we asked this question to all our guests, and it's their favourite moment in their career.
It would be my first cap against Scotland. That was probably my favourite moment, and then also how proud my family was of me getting selected for the Barbarians. So that was really cool. I really enjoyed that whole week, and that was probably my favourite week of like leading up to a game and the game. That's probably my favourite moment in rugby.
What was it about the Barbarians that you enjoyed so much?
It reminded me of playing for my local amateur club. Just like train and have a few beers, just so relaxed. But got onto the field and just played rugby. There was no like in the Premiership, and there's no one's fault, but in the Premiership there's a lot of calls, a lot of structure, whereas the Barber's just like, when you used to play rugby when you were a kid, it's just like that. So we're lucky to have Semi Renraja as well, because just given them, he scored about 4 tries.
Sure. Josh, I'd just like to say thank you very much for your time. It was, I guess, fascinating to hear about sort of rugby in Fiji, and it definitely seems like a place that sort of has this culture about rugby and sort of values, especially sort of the positive and good aspects of the game. So yeah, thanks for sharing.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much, Josh.
Appreciate it. Thanks for your time, boys, as well. Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
Sure, and for all our listeners, don't forget to follow our Instagram at the Tap and Go to get all sneak peeks and hear about next week's guest. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Come on! Come on!